The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Okay, hi everybody. I hope that everyone is able to hear me. I'm excited to do my first ever webinar. My name is Sarah Stanley. I'm the Associate Director of Academic Advising and Policy Development in the Office of Academic Excellence. And tonight we're going to run through the real basics of the graduation requirements here and some basics to consider when you're planning your academic schedule for spring and probably also beyond as you're looking into summertime and the rest of your time here at WCL. If you can't hear me, let me know. You can email me. I have my email up at sstanley@wcl.american.edu to get my attention on that. And you should also be able to submit questions. You can either email me questions or you can do it through the questions functionality on the webinar. Okay, here we go. So the basics of graduation requirements. We're always on a march to 86 credits. That is a floor, not a ceiling. You can go above that. If you are doing your final semester as a full-time student, which is 12 credits or more, you can go above that without paying any additional costs, since you'll be paying the flat tuition rate. You have to, of course, complete all of your required classes as 2Ls. You are almost done with that. We'll talk about what those are. And then the one that confuses everyone is the residency requirement. This doesn't have anything to do with where you're living, so don't worry. It doesn't matter if you live in Maryland and are commuting into DC. It has to deal with the amount of time and class time that you've been in school. So for full-time students, you need to show that you've been in school for 6 semesters of 12 credits or more, which makes sense if you think about it. That is 3 years, 2 semesters each, which you've been full-time, which is the 12 credits floor. And then you also, for evening students, need to show that you've been in school for 8 semesters of 8 credits or more. So for a resident semester to count towards your goal of either 6 or 8, you need to make sure that you're hitting that minimum credit mark. What you can do, though, is if you've done work over the summertime, you've essentially banked some credits that we can sort of deposit in a semester down the road or even behind us that may have credits of less than what you need for a resident semester. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. You have the upper level writing requirement, unless you have the skills requirement. So for your required courses, full-time students should be just about done. You probably will have taken Crim Pro over the summer, or you're in it now, and so all you have left is legal ethics to do in the springtime. For evening students, you do have to take property in the spring, and you will also have to take legal ethics if you haven't gotten it out of the way already. The registrar needs to enroll you in the property section since it's going to be doctrinal and section based. So don't worry if you're having trouble adding that on your own. You can go ahead and add it to your plan. If you're having trouble checking with the registrar, they can make sure that they manually enter you into the property section. So again, 86 credits, that's always the goal. Like I said, that's a floor, not a ceiling. You can certainly go above that. We've had students end up with over 100 credits. The thing to also keep in mind with the credits is that you do have a maximum of 12 what are called non-contact or non-classroom credits. And those are credits that you're getting for stuff that doesn't require you to be in a seat at a certain time here at WCL. Those are independent study credits, journal credits, credits you're getting for competition teams or competitions that you're doing, and externship field credits. The seminar doesn't count towards those non-contact credits because you do have a set time and place that you need to be for that seminar. What messes some people up is that clinic, even though we do separate it out into a seminar piece and a field piece, all of clinic is considered classroom credit. So you don't need to worry that you're going to hit that 12 maximum with just one or two semesters of clinic. Clinic is all classroom credit. This usually doesn't become a problem unless you are externing a lot and you're also on maybe the e-board of a journal, because the e-board of journal gets those extra executive board credits. If you're concerned that you might hit the non-contact limit or you want to make sure where you are, just feel free to make an appointment or even just send me an email and ask to have me count up your non-contact credits and see where we are. Again, it's independent study, journal, competition, and the externship field piece. Don't worry about clinic counting against that for you. So for the residency piece, like I said, full-time 6 semesters of 12 credits or more, evening students 8 semesters of 8 credits or more. If you have a semester that is below the minimum for your respective resident semester, you can combine summer credits with those semester credits to create a semester equivalent. So for instance, if you are an evening student and you only took 7 credits this past semester, let's say you just took the Con Law and Crim Pro, that technically isn't enough to count as a resident semester. But if you also took classes over the summertime, I can use, let's say, 3 credits that you took over the summer, pair it with the semester that you already have, and that would essentially create a semester equivalent of 10 credits. Same for full-time students. So you'll hear a lot of full-time students talk about that they've done work over the summer and they're hoping to go to part-time for one of their last semesters. It's usually doable. We have to make sure we're going to hit the 86 credits at the end of it, but it's certainly something that's possible in terms of the residency requirements. You can also pair summers with summers. So if a full-time student does 2 summers of 6 credits each, it's possible for them to graduate a semester early because I'll be using those 2 summers together as a resident semester. Basically, what the takeaway of this is that anytime you're thinking of hitting below the minimum for your resident semester, whether that's 12 credits as a full-time student or 8 credits as an evening student, please come and talk to me or someone in the registrar's office that can make sure that that is not accidentally prolonging your graduation date. Upper level writing requirement. This is a requirement that you're going to do a writing project, 7,000 words of legal writing of a B quality or better. Some folks will fulfill this through the journal comment. You do need to make sure that you have a faculty supervisor on board at the start of that process. Don't go to them after you've already submitted it to the journal and ask a professor to read over it. They usually want to be involved in the topic selection, sort of the basics from the beginning. Where a lot of students will also do it is through a seminar. And if you look at the course listings page, you'll see that there's a column called type and there are U's next to certain courses. If there is a U next to a course, that means that there's a paper or an option for a paper that will allow you to fulfill the upper level writing requirement. If there is an asterisk next to the U, that usually means that there is a paper within the class, but you might need to extend it and write more than is technically required to have it meet the length requirement. You still want to confirm with the professor at the outset if you want to use the paper that's in the course for the upper level writing, particularly if it's a course in which you're going to be extending the paper. You want to make sure that the professor is comfortable with the amount of reading that or grading that he or she are about to do. So it's always best to go ahead, send an email, or make sure at the outset of a course or the comment process that they are comfortable supervising and certifying the paper as the upper level writing requirement. The last option is an independent study. And that's where if you want to write on a particular thing with a particular professor, you can approach that professor, talk about a topic, and if that professor agrees, register for 2 independent study credits, and that will be all you do for those 2 credits over the course of that semester. You'll log your hours to make sure that you are doing enough work to receive the 2 credits worth of time, and the relationship and the interaction between the professor is largely up to you. So some professors like really rigid, we're going to meet once a week sort of schedules. Others are much more fluid. That can depend a lot on the professor and the topic and the agreement with your writing project. But it's a great option for a student that has a very particular thing they want to write on and isn't seeing any class that will let them fulfill that, or really wants to get deeper into a subject that they've touched on in a class and wasn't able to explore it further. If you have more questions on independent studies, feel free to come and see me. I will also point out this is also a really great option for evening students who maybe aren't getting an opportunity to take certain classes that are offered during the day, but want to interact with a professor on their own time. The skills component. Each student has a requirement of doing 6 credits of professional or experiential skills. These will be fulfilled by clinic, and if you are in clinic, clinic is usually 7 credits in one semester alone, so it fulfills it very easily all by itself. It can be done through an externship. Both the field and the seminar will count towards this. So if you've done a seminar for 2 credits and 4 credits of field work over a summer externship, you're already done your skills requirement. And you can also do it through skills classes. And there are approved courses that have been vetted to make sure that they fit this requirement. You can go to the course listings page and see above the listing, there's a radio button for professional experiential skills courses. If you click that and refresh the page, it will pull out everything that will count for that requirement. You'll see a lot of the clinic offerings. You'll see a bunch of the seminars for externships, but you'll also see things like appellate advocacy, criminal trial advocacy, lawyer bargaining, pretrial litigation, e-discovery, all of that stuff. All are going to count for that. do think a little bit about the math of it. You need 6. You'll see that most skills courses are either 3 credits or 2 credits. If you do a 3-credit skills requirement, it's probably best to look ahead and try to figure out if there's another 3-credit skills requirement that you'd like to meet. You can certainly do more than this, so you don't have to hit the 6 right on the nose. You can go above that. But if you do a 3-credit skills requirement and a 2-credit skills requirement and hoping to be done, you're going to have to do one more because that's only going to get us to 5. Talking a little bit about externships, this is a big question for a lot of folks. You will always have to enroll in a seminar. We're not allowed to give you credit for any fieldwork unless you have a seminar component. The first time you do a seminar, you're going to enroll in the supervised externship seminar, which is $769. That's going to be worth 2 credits. If you want to do a second externship and you still have externship field credits left over from your first, that's totally fine. You can do an advanced externship seminar. That's only going to be for 1 credit. You then get field credit based on the amount of time you're going to be at your placement. If you're there about 10 hours per week, that's going to equate to 2 field credits. If you're there about 15 hours a week, that's going to equate to 3. If you're there 20 hours a week, that's going to equate to 4. So as I was saying, if you were to do a 2-credit seminar for your first externship and you were at your externship for 20 or more hours a week getting 4 field credits, you will have done the entire skills requirement just through the externship. You will register for a seminar just like a regular class. You can add it to your plan and register on registration day. For your field credit, you need to go through the externship website through the Apply to Field Credit button. It takes you step by step how to do that. The externship office approves your placement. You'll get an add drop form for your respective amount of field credits. Again, both the seminar and the field count towards skills. Do note that there is a limit of 6 total field credits throughout your time here at WCL. So if you've done 1 externship for 3 field credits, you can do 1 more for any combination of 3 or 1 and 2. If you've done an externship for 4 field credits, that means that you've got 2 more field credits that you can play around with over your time here. If you have questions on that, feel free to come and see me. Happy to walk through what we've already done and what we have left to do. As you're putting your schedule together, the acronym that I came up with is BEAR in mind, and that's going to stand for Balance, Extracurriculars, Advising, and Requirements. For balance, do make sure that you're looking at not just days and times, not just practice area versus bar courses, but also the method of assessment. It's not always a good idea to take a bunch of bar courses all at one time just because it's going to be a whole lot of reading and it can be difficult to do well in all of them, but also that means that your finals period is going to be pretty scary. If you look at courses and you have a couple of in-class finals, a couple of take-homes, maybe a couple of papers or some simulation classes, that's going to allow you to potentially do well in all of those things because you're not feeling overwhelmed during finals period. Talking a little bit about how to choose practice area versus bar courses. First, I get the question a lot of what are bar courses that I should be considering? And the solid ones, no matter where you're taking the bar exam, are going to be evidence, and evidence is all but required. It's on the multiple choice of the bar exam. You're not getting away from it. It's really important. Right behind that is business associations. Very, very, very few bars in the past couple of years haven't had a question on business associations or corporations. It's a big, heavy class. It's got a lot of good stuff in there. I think that most students should, almost all students really need to take it. After that are courses like Secure Transactions, Wills, Trusts and Estates, Conflict of Laws, and Remedies. Those are subjects and areas of subjects that are going to be on every bar exam across the country. Other foundational courses that might not necessarily be quote-unquote bar courses, but are going to be foundational for either a practice area or just a general well-rounded legal education are going to be things like personal income tax, administrative law, especially here in DC, ADR negotiation simulation classes, and federal courts. Fed courts is particularly important if you're thinking about clerking after graduation, and especially at the federal level, unsurprisingly. Again, don't overload yourself. Really be cognizant of this balance, especially during your 2L year. Day students have probably already started to see this, that 2Ls tend to bite off a little bit more than they can chew, wanting to get a bunch of those big bar classes out of the way, but also wanting to explore practice area, maybe also wanting to go to an externship. Please be aware of how much you're taking on and what that allows you to do well. You can shoot for 13 or 14 credits, especially if you're planning on doing or have done credits over the summer. If you're edging up into that 16 credit territory, that's when you're going to want to take a step back and make sure that everything that you're doing really makes sense together. In terms of balancing bar courses, I think if you add a bar course for every semester and then you fill in on top of that with practice area or skills work, you're in really great shape. You don't have to feel like you're going to hit every single bar course, but having one big one for each semester, make sure that we're laying a really good foundation for the bar, and that we just have a nice, well-rounded legal education that employers like to see. If you're having trouble figuring out this balance, or you want sort of my opinion on what I think might be a little bit too much, or maybe we need to put in more practice area courses, make an appointment. You can schedule with me by emailing me, and I'll send you the link to my bookings page, or you can go to bookwithoae.com. If you have questions about particular practice areas and what courses might be the most beneficial as you're looking to get into certain practice areas, go to your faculty for that. If you're not sure what faculty to go to, feel free to reach out to me, and I'm happy to connect you with who I think might be able to help you out. I'm going to stop there and see if there are any questions. Like I said, this is just a real basic, hopefully convenient way to get the basics of the graduation requirements and course planning out of the way. Do keep in mind BEAR, which is the balance, extracurriculars, and what extracurriculars might be taking away from your semester, making sure that you're not biting off too much that you can chew if you also have a lot of commitments outside of school. Advising, please come and see me, and of course, making sure that we're hitting our graduation requirements. I'm going to take a look here and see if we have any questions from anyone. As always, feel free to email me any questions. That's my email up there, sstanley@wcl.american.edu. And you can always make an appointment with me. The webinar will be posted on MyWCL under the Office of Academic Excellence page, and we'll probably have its own little tab for 2L refresher. Any other questions? All right, folks, I'm going to leave it there. Hopefully this was quick and easy, painless, and a little bit of a refresher for some stuff to be thinking about. As you're looking into the next semesters, please feel free to come and meet with me. I'm seeing students for 15 minutes up until registration to try and see as many students as I can. But after that, I'm happy to meet for longer periods of time if we don't get to everything. For any evening students who may be here, please know that I'm also happy to take phone calls during the day. I know it can be tough to get to campus before you have to get to class. So I'm happy to take phone calls during the day over lunch, or if you have a slow afternoon at work, feel free to do that. Any other questions going forward, send me an email. Otherwise, thanks so much everyone for joining, and I hope you have a wonderful evening. Have a good one. Bye-bye.